Apple pulled a 99-cent iPhone game called Baby Shaker from its iTunes store. Its premise, quiet a crying baby with a vigorous shake, prompted outrage outside an Apple store in New York City from parents whose children were hurt or killed from being shaken.
She was born perfectly healthy, but at 5 days old, the monster that we brought into our home as a baby nurse to spend the first few weeks with us shook her in the middle of the night, breaking 3 ribs, both collarbones, and causing a severe brain injury.
So this is an application designed for President Obama when he was running for office.
Independent developer Dom Sagola helped build the iPhone app for the Obama campaign and says Baby Shaker needed to be pulled.
I wasn't too impressed, and the concept itself is a little bit distasteful, actually. I have a toddler, so I wouldn't use that app. There's a certain expectation with the iPhone platform, and it's an expectation of quality, it's an expectation of a certain experience, and we, as developers, try to trust Apple to help us make the right decisions.
Rand Alexander, who helped develop this cookie-eating app, suggests a rating system for the iPhone.
They do have games that are a little more of a mature audience. I think maybe with something like that, it could have been rated mature comedy. Maybe that's something they can build in later on. As far as weeding out questionable apps, I'm really mixed. I think that, yeah, there's a lot of trash on there. There's a lot of applications. But at the same time, free market, it's going to dictate. Now, obviously, this must have caused some sort of stir because it's off now.
Although Baby Shaker was pulled, protesters say they still want an apology from Apple.
Issue a public apology, and moreover, we're asking again anyone who has put this onto their phones to delete it. It's the responsible and the right thing to do.
Apple recently launched a countdown website leading up to its 1 billionth iPhone app download.
April 20th is a strange day. It's only the 110th day of the year. Yet unlike the vast majority of the days of the year that aren't holidays, we stay somewhat attracted to this particular day, mostly because of its association with weed since it's the 20th day of the 4th month. April 20th is also famous for being the birth date of Adolf Hitler, the day the Swedish DJ Avicii took his own life, and the day Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold committed the Columbine High School massacre. But there's a few historical events that took place on that day I feel no one really talks about. On this day in 1789, the first US president, George Washington, arrived at the neighborhood Gray's Ferry in Philadelphia while on his way to New York for his inauguration. A few years down the road in 1792, the French Assembly would declare war against the Holy Roman Emperor Francis II, kicking off the French Revolutionary Wars. In 1898, April 20th would be the day 25th President and Batman villain William McKinley signed a joint congressional resolution which declared war against Spain, beginning the Spanish-American War. In 1945, 20 Jewish children who were subjects of the Nazi human experiments at the Nickelback concentration camps were killed in the basement of Balsigheil, which is a school located in Hamburg, Germany.
But there's nothing funny about that.
In 1972, John Watts Young and Charles Moss Duke Jr. would land on the moon during the Apollo 16 mission.
Okay, here we go, a big one. Off the ground, before. There we go. Good.
In 2007, an employee at the construction and engineering company, Jacobs Engineering Group Incorporated, now known as Jacobs Solutions Incorporated, would shoot and kill someone in Building 44 at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. The gunman, William Phillips, would take a hostage for 3 hours before committing suicide.
Earlier in the week, we in fact had reviewed, as a result of the Virginia Tech shootings, had reviewed our own procedures here at the Johnson Space Center, security procedures and response procedures and so forth. But of course, we never believed this could happen here to our family and our situation.
And just a couple years later, in 2009, a company known as I'm not even gonna fucking try, released a game called Baby Shaker on the App Store for 99 cents. The goal of the game is to stop the baby from crying, and you do that by, what else? Shaking your iPhone until red X's appear over the baby's eyes. A couple days later, a website that, I shit you not, is literally called craps.com, discovered the game and will publish an article titled Baby Shaker. It's not funny, Apple. Jesus fucking Christ. To quote the article, besides death and brain damage, shaking a baby can cause blindness, learning problems, seizure disorders, cerebral palsy, and paralysis. Yeah, pretty disgusting stuff. ... repulsive and sickening. It's not even a real picture of a fucking baby! Craps would then post the link of their article to Twitter, and you know, Twitter did what Twitter does, and the article quickly gained attention, with DB saying, "You suck. People should be able to run whatever apps they want." The entirety of New Zealand said, "No one has complained about the hundreds of games that involve killing other human beings. You people are so retarded. Leave people the fuck alone, and let them do what they want to do, even if that involves shaking a digital baby." Fucking Fred Figglehorn said all this shit. And most importantly, motherfucking John K. said, "Though I find any act that harms a child to be disgusting." Oh, do you now, Johnny boy? I can't help but feel like people overreact to things. I can't think of a single person who would download the app thinking that it was practice for the real world, or even that it was a good idea to shake babies. One of the reasons a lot of comedy is because people can be offended by it. This is just like Palin complaining every time someone makes fun of kids with Down syndrome. Hell, there are actors with Down's syndrome who cannot act because people are afraid to offend anyone. It's not like these people came up to you and made the joke to your face. It wasn't aimed at anyone. Of course John K. would make it in a video about kids one way or another. Anyway, the following day, Jennifer Dickens, founder of the nonprofit organization Stop Shakin' Baby Syndrome Incorporated, would find the article and repost the link on her Twitter. Many media publications and child advocacy groups caught wind of the game's existence, claiming it was making fun of and/or glorifying shaken baby syndrome. Many were also outraged at the fact that the game was released on National Child Abuse Prevention Month, during Shaken Baby Syndrome Awareness Week. I can't make this shit up even if I tried, and I'm still on the hunt for that lost scene in the Sex and the City movie where Tom Selleck covers himself in bees and flies into the Twin Towers. The App Store would later pull the game off the site, but then, the next day, it came back! Then it was removed again later that afternoon. Craps.com would later post a couple of updates, but honestly, I don't really give a shit. As for the game itself, the developers would later respond to the backlash, and some nameless spokesperson at Apple commented on the controversy soon after. And to this day, the game is considered lost media unless someone has an old iPhone with this game installed. But anyway, here's a list of United States presidents that I think look funny. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, John Quincy Adams. Here's Andrew Jackson looking like a cross between Gandhi and Nebercracker from Monster House. Oh my fucking god. Well, here's Martin. Here's our 9th president, William Henry Harrison. Doesn't he look just like an Easter Island head? From this point forwards, presidents stopped looking goofy and started looking like someone's grandpa, but Dwight D. Eisenhower looks like a goldfish. And let's not forget, from 1929 to 1933, we had a president named Herbert Hoover. Good night, everybody!
I'm a half brother and my fully